views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
And hello, everyone, and welcome to Open, the one and only show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm your host, Daren Jaime, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough, as well as across New York City. Coming up on today's show, we go front and center as September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. We'll discuss the signs and symptoms which indicate someone you care about may be experiencing suicidal thoughts. And then afterwards, we'll talk about a not-for-profit organization that's helping thousands of first-generation students from low-income backgrounds be able to stay in college. And then we'll talk about a series booklet that's highlighting the major challenges higher education is currently facing. A little later on in the show, we'll also sit with BronxWorks on how they're improving individuals and families actually improve their economic and social well-being. And then finally, we'll learn how one organization is aiming to create a community of young adults across the city who are committed to taking responsibility for their very own lives. We've got an exciting show coming up. Stay with us. All this and much more is heading your way. Right now, we're officially open. And hello, everyone. I'm Daren Jaime, and welcome to Open. Today is Wednesday, September the 8th. And yes, you're watching Open, a live and interactive program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to your TV sets. We also want to welcome our viewers who are watching now on Manhattan Neighborhood Network, as Open is being broadcast live simultaneously on the MNN channel. We also ask you to stay connected to us. How can you do that? Of course, our website, www.bronxnet.org, and then also all of our social media platforms at BronxNet TV. Well, a lot has gone on throughout the course of the past week in our area. We'll take you through a couple of things with our Bronx updates. We start off with community news. The schools are getting set to reopen. The Fifth Neighborhoods Organization Bronx Community Action Team actually held a backpack giveaway for students right here in our borough. Our BronxNet reporter, Kim Aline, was there and brings us the details.
Ensuring Bronx students have the tools they need for the upcoming school year, the Bronx Community Action Team under the organization Fifth Neighborhood held a back-to-school giveaway. Director of Community and Public Safety Willie Thomas says this community engagement project comes after seeing the aftermath of COVID-19.
Our young children getting ready to go back to school in September. The pandemic had hurt families economically, right? To a point that we can't even imagine.
Hoping to ease the minds of parents still dealing with the economic effects of the pandemic, the organization handed out backpacks filled with notebooks, pencils, and PPE for students in grades K through 12. Excited for the return of in-person learning, middle schooler Joshua M. appreciates this effort.
I feel good because they're helping other people that need, and some people don't have money to afford to buy expensive stuff.
In an effort to add fun to the task of getting school supplies, BCAT also provided the community with a barbecue, music, and face painting. This is just one of the organization's many efforts towards building a stronger and safer community.
We need an opportunity and we need a safe space where people could come out and just enjoy themselves, have a family atmosphere, and relax.
It doesn't have to seem boring. It could be a community thing. And also, it provides people with the opportunity to get to know each other within their own community, see each other face to face. It's very important for these students to come out here and just engage.
If you missed this event, do not worry. The organization plans to take this initiative all throughout the Bronx, just in time for that school bell. To learn more, visit the link below. Reporting for BronxNet, Kim and Aline.
And thank you, Kibben. We do have more news in other news. The Bronx River Allegiance partnered with Wrap for Bronx to deliver fresh, free produce. Our BronxNet reporter, Darissa White, was on the scene, and she has more on this story.
In a partnership with Wrap for Bronx, a food relief program, the Bronx River Alliance distributed pounds of free fresh produce to Bronxites last week at Starlight Park. This initiative was born in the wake of COVID-19 to get healthy food onto the table of Bronx residents. Program director of Wrap for Bronx, Shauwea McCormick, tells us food insecurity was the motivating factor for the food distribution.
The fact that the lack of access to fresh produce here in the Bronx is so prominent, we really wanted to make sure that we had options and ways, pathways for the community to access fresh produce.
The fresh produce is all from Mimo Mex, a family farm located in upstate New York. Wrap for Bronx was able to partner with the farm with funding from Nourish New York.
We're really grateful that we received the funding through Nourish New York just in time to start up our farmers markets, and just the produce that we get from there is definitely dealt and grown with a lot of love, and you can tell.
But you make me healthy that I can get it.
Oh, yeah.
And community members seemed grateful for this program.
Oh, this is great. I've seen them before other places, and I haven't been able to make it, so I'm glad I'm here and I'm able to see how fresh and how much they give.
The Bronx River Alliance also had a chef on site doing some cooking demonstrations for healthy alternatives to meat.
From a health standpoint, we're not carnivores. If you look at animals like lions, tigers, their teeth structure, their digestive system is different than ours. What you do is you just take oil and vinegar with your hands, you massage the kale, add some sea salt so it breaks down the fiber, and so you have a cooked kale dish, but without adding any heat.
Wrap for Bronx is not out here every Friday, but they said check their website and their social media so you can also have a chance to get some radishes, some callaloo, and even some kale. Reporting for BronxNet, Darissa White.
And thank you, Darissa. And that is all the time we have for our Bronx Update segment. But guess what? We still have a whole lot more show up ahead. Don't go anywhere. Open is taking a quick break. We're returning right after this. And welcome back to the show. Well, September is Suicide Prevention Month, and as year 2 of the COVID-19 pandemic continues, the Delta variant still remains strong, stress levels remain at a concerning high, and many populations, new populations, including children and people who have got the virus before, are now being affected. Our next guest is here to provide some information to help somebody dealing and struggling with depression. Joining us to share more details is the Associate Director of VNSNY Community Mental Health Services, Deirdré DeLeo. And thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Daren. I always appreciate the opportunity to speak about these important issues.
And it is an important issue because when we talk about where we are right now, many people didn't anticipate we would be 2 years into this pandemic, but yet and still the COVID variant, the COVID virus and the variant continues to wreak havoc across New York and the United States. And we're finding more and more people actually dealing with depression. Share with me a little bit more about those thoughts that people are having during this time.
Sure. I'm sure a lot of people like myself thought that the pandemic would be behind us. We're now dealing with another variant, which people are getting despite having vaccinations. Parents are worried about what's going to happen in September. Children are going back to school. Children are worried they have to adjust. Some children did a whole year last year remotely. Now they're faced with going back 100% full time. And it's causing a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. People are worried about catching COVID again, because people who've had it may be reinfected. And there's just a lot of stuff that's, I'm going to say, up in the air for everyone right now. And a lot of stress, it has a huge toll on our emotional well-being.
Yeah. And when you talk about that toll on the emotional level, some people take it to the most gravest form, and that is of suicide. As we continue to hear more and more accounts of people actually taking their lives. And I know that, when we talk about suicide, we want to make sure that our viewers are pretty much well aware of suicide and the rise, and then also how to really be guarded. So let's talk first about suicide and what you're hearing about that.
Sure. Well, there was a study published in 2020 by the CDC, which is very alarming to me, in that 1 out of every 4 young adults they looked at a period of 30 days, had considered suicide. That's a lot of people thinking about suicide. And right now, it's the 11th leading cause in the United States of all populations. It's the second leading cause of our children aged 15 to 24. And there's more recently been studies shown that Black children between the ages of 5 to 11, the rates of completed suicide are rapidly rising for that particular population. So it's really something that everybody needs to think about, ask about, be aware of, because it is preventable.
Yeah, it is preventable. And I think that sometimes we overlook the most common things, signs that people are exhibiting during times when they're depressed and their emotional mood swings are going south. But for somebody who may be watching right now, make us more familiar with what are some of the signs that particularly we maybe need to pay attention to when it comes to the issue of suicide.
Sure. The number one predictor of suicidal ideation is actually people expressing hopelessness. So nothing's going to get better. They're just really down in the dumps, as we say, right? You're looking for people who are saying that people would be better off without them. They can't do anything right. They're expressing thoughts of being worthless. You've noticed a change in the way that they behave. So someone who's very outgoing, all of a sudden they're very to themselves. And I know, as I said before, during the pandemic is a little harder to see that because we're a little more isolated anyway, but someone who maybe would reach out by text or email or phone calls, now you're not hearing from them at all. Something that some people do is they start giving their things away, or they start talking about, I want to leave that to you. Maybe sleeping more, sleeping less, changes in appetite, eating more, eating less, losing a lot of weight, gaining a lot of weight, just really marked change from how that person usually is. And those are the signs to look out for.
Yeah. And then you have these signs that are verbal and then nonverbal. And I know your organization does a great job of really dealing with people and helping families and individuals be able to deal with that. So from your perspective, share some of the services that are available to people who may be seeking assistance.
Sure. So VNSNY has a very robust community mental health department. We have a clinic for children and their families in the Bronx, and we have a lot of home-based services that we do. And the one that I really would love to talk about, because it ties so neatly in with suicide, is our mobile crisis teams. So mobile crisis teams are a service that are funded throughout the city by New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. And they're for anyone, birth and up, who's experiencing any kind of emotional crisis. And maybe they're not willing to reach out for help, or they're having a hard time finding help. And all the services are accessed through NYC Well. And that number is 1-888-692-9355. And NYC Well clinicians, and they are all mental health clinicians, will ask questions. And you can call for yourself, or you can call for someone that you know. And if they determine that the person is at risk, they will make a mobile crisis referral. And our mobile crisis teams consist of clinicians and peer advocates, and we go out and we do home visits. And I just also want to highlight that there are 2 types of mobile crisis teams. We have teams that are specifically geared for children and young adults. And then we have the adult teams, which will see everyone from ages 21 and older. And we do see a lot of seniors, because a lot of seniors are more isolated and having a lot more issues with depression lately. The teams will go out, they do a full assessment. If the person would benefit from being seen in an emergency room, we get them to the emergency room. And if they would benefit from staying in their home and getting connected in the community, we stay with them through phone calls, additional home visits, until they get an appointment with a mental health provider.
How impactful have you found it to have that mobile unit? I mean, many times we rely on people coming to us, but yet and still, your mobile unit really reaches out to them. Talk about that impact.
Sure. You know, there are a lot of people who don't realize that they are in a bad place. Sometimes it takes somebody else from outside saying, "Hey, I'm worried about you." And it's not always an easy conversation for families to have. So having clinicians come to the home, we do make appointments when we can, and it's a lot safer to talk to someone, much like you're talking to me now in my living room, right? In a way, you've done a home visit to me. It's just you're more comfortable, you're in your own environment. There's less stigma around someone coming to you than you walking into a brick and mortar building. So in a way, it's a nice way to get connected.
Yeah. And with COVID-19 really being still at the forefront of many people's minds, I know a lot of people have a lot of issues about going outside, but yet and still your volunteers are going door to door, really making that impact.
Yes, our staff are going and making home visits despite everything. We wear all the approved CDC PPE. Everything is done safely. We're, maintaining social distance in people's homes. If someone says, "I'm really, really concerned about COVID and I don't want you to come to my home," then we will do everything that we can telephonically. So we want everyone to be safe and we want people to be comfortable.
Yeah. Have you seen an increase since we've been talking about the COVID-19 pandemic of more calls, more people going out with your mobile unit?
It has been getting busier in the last month or so, probably because people are a little bit more stressed because of the school year starting. So it is making people a little bit more anxious.
Yeah. Well, Deirdré, I want to thank you so much for being with us and sharing a little bit about suicide prevention. Again, great work that you're doing in the community, especially at a time like this. Many people dealing with emotional health and their psychological and mental well-being, but VNSNY out there at the forefront. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much, Daren. We really appreciate you allowing us this time to talk about this topic and about the services that VNSNY provides.
Well, definitely got to have you back, and want to let our viewers know if you want more information, please do us a favor. Visit their website, vnsny.org. Also, you are more than welcome to utilize your phone and give them a call. Their number is 1-800-675-0391. Again, that number, 1-800-675-0391. Now, we do have more show for you. We encourage you don't go anywhere. Open will continue coming up after this break. And welcome back to the show. Bottom Line is a not-for-profit organization that's helping thousands of first-generation students from low-income backgrounds stay in college as well as complete their degrees. Now, with sustainable growth, their vision is to transform urban communities by producing thousands of career-ready college graduates who are breaking the cycle of poverty. Now, their organization has grown dramatically over the last 20 years and now serves over 6,000 students. That concludes over Massachusetts, New York, as well as Chicago. Here now to give us a little bit more, we're pleased to be joined by the Executive Director of the New York region at Bottom Line, Shauwea Hamilton. And Shauwea, good to have you.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you and sharing in this important conversation. Keeping students in school, very important, and no time greater than now as students are returning back to the classroom, but some are returning back with in-person learning after having to deal with the virtual environment. And I know that your hands have been pretty full just trying to do that work. So if our viewers don't know, give us a little bit about your organization.
Well, you set us up very nicely in terms of sharing our mission, which is to partner with underserved students to get into and through the right college and successfully launch a career. The students that we are working with, their parents have not gone through the college experience. They've not spent the last 12 years of their life getting ready for the college experience. And so Bottom Line helps to supplement their understanding of college and support them in our access program with making a highly informed choice on which college to attend. And that is really about obviously the academic fit and alignment of interests, the cultural and social fit in terms of meeting their extracurricular needs and interests, but also the financial and affordability fit. One of the single most reason that a student from a low-income background drops out of college is that they are taking on an unaffordable college campus that isn't set up to support them through to degree. And so Bottom Line really supports students in selecting colleges that are teed up to support them to the bachelor's degree. And then with our success program, we are taking those freshmen and students who are kind of stepping into colleges in New York for the first time. So I work specifically with our New York students, and we provide an advisor who guides them through all of the critical components of college, from the selection of your courses to managing your time, particularly that first year with the finals experiences, and also building a sense of community. How do we support students who might be stepping into institutions that don't look like their high schools, they don't look like the communities that they live in, and that can be a shock, and really helping them, supporting them with both mental health supports, adaptability, self-awareness support, so that they can feel and be their complete selves in those new spaces. And our program is all about getting to that final bachelor's degree, because it's all about economic mobility for us as an organization. We want our students to achieve that $1 million marker in their career, which is what a bachelor's degree gets you to $1 million more in your lifetime earnings than those without. And that's the pathway, the most reliable pathway to economic stability.
I know that for students, it's very overwhelming, and also for parents. I mean, I've had a son in college, and I know the application process can be daunting. You're moving into another level of academics that, you're unfamiliar with. What are some of the common challenges that you're finding for students who are trying to enter into the collegiate environment right through the door?
Yeah, so it is the study skills and time management. I don't think there's one college student who does not struggle with time management in this new normal for the undergraduate experience. And so I would say that is first and foremost and not unique to the students that we are serving. I think some of the adaptive aspects of college, how to navigate the system, how to leverage and build relationships with your professors, those social aspects and social networking within college, that is a place where Bottom Line really supports students in building their self-advocacy muscles in that higher ed space where they might not be used to stepping in and advocating for themselves. I don't know that there is a institution of higher education that doesn't have complex structures. And so that's a place that we offer significant support as well. And then the other part I mentioned is supporting them to have a sense of belonging, really trying to find the places where they can find their people, whether that's the tech people, the nursing people, the variety of different identity-based student unions, really supporting them to find the place where they belong, because that sense of belonging also supports students to the finish line.
Yeah. And with full-time students, we know that they have their job, their educational responsibilities to be able to handle, but we also know that there's another component of students that also have to deal with work and that work environment. Any help there in being able to balance and navigate that work environment, because you have, someone trying to take care of family members, if not themselves, and then at the same time be able to get that degree. Is there anything available to help them out?
Well, so this is where time management always comes into play, of course, but Bottom Line also really supports students So actually stepping back, we support students with some financial aid that might allow them to do things they otherwise couldn't do. We have some different scholarship programs that we're affiliated with, Dream It Real with Coach Foundation and Pacer Scholars, 2 scholarships that really create the environment for students to focus on their studies with some supplemental aid. Of course, that's not for every single student we serve, but really for us, when we talk about our thought leadership and our advocacy, it's also supporting with potential employers to increase the number of paid internships that exist. A lot of times our students are choosing between the paycheck they need over the summer or the internship and resume experience that they really want to build for themselves, which is what gets them to that first destination in their career. And so we work and build partnerships with employers who are willing to provide compensation for those internships and allowing them to do both. And then the other part is in our advisement structure, it's being realistic. What can you do? First, what do you have to do? If you have to work 30 hours a week, what can you do? And how do we backwards map you to a calendar or a schedule that allows you to maintain both? Because the last thing we want you to do is take on too much and then have to drop out or get a grade that you're less than happy with. It's better to go slow to get to that finish line than to overextend yourself and sacrifice your experience, your mental health and sanity, and potentially increase your burnout from the experience.
Yeah. How do we get people connected to you guys? Because certainly I know there's some parents out there that are watching, maybe some students who are shaking their head and saying, this might be the help I actually need.
Yeah, so I know a large part of your viewership are based in the Bronx, and I'll tell you that a quarter of our current students hail from the Bronx. We actually have some partnerships with high schools in the Bronx. Most of our bottom line students currently are coming from Bronx Leadership Academy, Central Park, Marble Hill High for international studies, and Morris Academy for collaborative studies. And that's just where we happen to have stronger partnerships with a stronger referral pattern. But you can go to our website, www.bottomline.org, and find out about our recruitment patterns. We are accepting applications in about February for the upcoming school year. And it's really, you meet our requirements. You don't have to have a specific relationship. You can just apply directly online, and we encourage and love that.
Yeah, Shauwea, thank you so much for sharing some much needed tips. Definitely want to get people connected to your organization, but thank you for taking the time out with us here this morning.
Daren, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All righty. Well, we want our viewers to know now, if you want more information, we encourage you, please visit their website. Their website is bottomline.org. And then you can also follow them on Twitter at bottomline.org. We encourage you, please don't go anywhere. We do have more Open coming up. We're taking a quick break, and then Open returns right after this.
If you're struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit, or call toll-free at 833-511-0311. That's 833-511-0311.
And welcome back to the show. The higher education and not-for-profit consultancy at Thinkubator released the Stepping Away from the Brink series booklet, which is a resource guide for higher education leaders. Now, the series is the first round of its kind to be blunt and brutally honest with the higher education sector challenges as the authors see them and the opportunities leaders have to innovate in a constantly changing world. Sharing more about this and giving us some details is Thinkubator's president and CEO, Dr. Edward Summers. And Dr. Summers, good to have you.
It's good to be here. Thanks for having us.
So listen, when we talk about stepping away from the brink, obviously a resource guide that is going to help educators, but give me a little bit behind the foundation of why you decided to put this resource guide together.
Sure. So a group of us got together, myself, Dr. Adriel Hilton, who's Senior Vice President of Student Affairs down at the University in New Orleans, and Dr. Leslie Branch, and later Dr. Deirdré joined us. And we, have all had many years of experience in higher education, and we had worked in various levels, whether in management or on the faculty, some at the very executive level as chief of staffs. And we often talk about the issues and challenges that higher education face, and the fact that some institutions over the last 10 years have closed or merged or associated with other institutions. And part of it is because they haven't had these really tough and hard conversations about the state of their institution, the state of the market. And people don't like to call higher ed a market, but it is a market, place, and how to directly confront these challenges head on. I think that institutions often scapegoat or skate around the issues, and they don't talk necessarily about them, and they don't necessarily engage and have inclusive conversations of many other constituencies at their communities. So we, based on our frustrations with the way we saw higher education going, we said, let's start to write about it. Let's start to talk about it. Let's start to utilize and leverage our experiences and talk about these issues, but not just talk about them. Let's make sure that we're providing solutions to them. And I should highlight the big thing too is that, we are, the Thinkubator as an organization is a Black-led organization, and the Stepping Away from the Brink is no different. All of the authors are people of color. And we, I believe, have a unique experience. And often we are not, if it's not an HBCU, if it's not a Hispanic serving institution or a minority serving institution, often we're not at the helms of those institutions. Lots of the primarily white institutions at the top have presidents who are white and other leaders who are white. And so we thought it was really important that us people, leaders of color, actually author this series and talk about our unique perspectives and our unique solutions to some of the challenges that higher education face, particularly because we're not at those leadership levels, often at primarily white institutions. So that was the foundation for why we decided to author this series.
And so when we unpack this now from a perspective, and I'm glad that you put it from a perspective where communities of color are really being adversely affected, let's unpack some of those challenges that you were able to really determine by use of your study.
Yes, so the study has about like 10 chapters in the booklet that we sent to you all. But what we highlighted in this was a lot of the management challenges that institutions have, often at the executive level, at the board level. We looked at some of the issues of the demographic shifts and the fact that we are increasingly becoming a brown nation. And we're not only a brown nation, but a brown nation that has some economic challenges as well. The reality that we see it is that, white folks aren't having the 10 kids that they had in the past and sending their kids off to school. We're lucky if we see in the white family, if they have any kids, let alone, one or two. So we're starting to see more Black and brown young people come of age. And so that's going to have a major impact on colleges and universities in terms of their future student body and what their institutions look like. There are also challenges of, knowing that the demographics will shift, and it is shifting, like how to make campuses more friendly towards these populations, how to make students feel wanted, how to make students feel like it's a campus for them. Other challenges is academic programming. How to reimagine and re-envision academic programming and making sure that it's relevant to the jobs on career pathways that exist today and exist for the future. Often colleges don't tackle that, and they just leave curriculum the same way it was 30, 40 years ago. Well, times have changed, right? You cannot leave the curriculum that way. We've also looked at issues of how to better partner with community-based organizations where the campuses and colleges and universities are located, but with industry as well, and how to make campus a more a sort of this place where it's not only a college campus, but it's a college campus that has industry there, that has community there, that all of a sudden it becomes this true hub of community engagement on the larger sense, not just the people that attend the institution, but the people in the local community and industry as well. I think increasingly we're going to see more and more campuses think about how to become a career-centered institution where we have young people not only attending school, but doing internships and gaining practical applied experience on their particular campuses. So, and then I'd say the last major issue that we're seeing is, and that we looked at, was that this notion going back to the demographic shift, this notion going back to many institutions, particularly particularly primarily white institutions, some have not dealt with this challenge of the demographic shift. They continue to have strategies that do not focus on making their campuses diverse. They may have these great statements out there and these committees on diversity and equity and inclusion, but they're not true about it. Having worked at the top level at multiple institutions, the second, right next to the president, essentially, I know that if institutions want diversity to happen, they can make it happen, period. But I noticed that what's happening is that institutions have these statements, particularly after the last year that we've had in our country, but they have not necessarily taken it serious. So one of the examples is the weight gain. What we've seen at a lot of PWIs is that they put kids of color, particularly low-income kids who may have the grades but cannot afford the institution, on a wait list. And they play the game of accepting them at the last minute into their institutions when they've exhausted their options with students who can't afford to pay the full sticker price to the institution. That's an asinine, and I hate to say it, strategy for colleges and universities where the demographic is shifting and the majority is going to be students of color, students of low income background. So these are some of the challenges that we talk about, and the fact that, you know, institutions, one, need to be more truthful about where they're at in the marketplace. They need to develop strategies that truly embrace a diverse population. They need to develop innovative programs that really prepare young people for work now, but work in the future as well. And they need to have campuses that build a sense of place, that is a place that young people want to be, that is vibrant, that it feels like they're in a community and not just in a college campus full of themselves, because the world is much larger than the bubble that oftentimes young people live at on college campuses.
Yeah. Before we go, how do people get their hands on this resource? Because it sounds very informational and very informative there.
So they can access this resource. We've made it free to everyone. We didn't want to charge for this because we feel like the issues that we touch upon is so critical. They can visit us at www.thethinkubator.org and then find us at the higher education page. And the report is free to download. Feel free to share it. We've gotten inquiries from all around the country about the report. So it's a free resource for our community.
Well, Dr. Summers, thank you so much for being with us here on Open. I definitely want to encourage our viewers to take a look and see a little bit more about that. And glad to have you with us.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
All right. Now, listen, if you want more information, again, visit their website at thethinkubator.org and then follow them on social media at The Thinkubator. We do have more show coming up. We want you to stay with us. Open will return coming up after this.
We built a media network for you.
BronxNet TV.
Come learn in your new state-of-the-art studios at Lehman College.
At Mercy College.
And coming soon to the South Bronx in the Hub.
Inspire with your stories, culture, history.
Your Bronx on BronxNet.
Engage with us.
Connect with us at your channels and at BronxNet.tv.
Learn, engage, inspire. BronxNet TV.
From the Bronx
to the world.
BronxNet.
And welcome back to the show. BronxWorks is the lead organization of the Bronx Rental Assistance Network, which has been funded by the New York City Department of Social Services, assisting tenants and small landlords with applying for the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. Now, as of June 1st, 2021, New York State began accepting emergency rent relief requests for tenants who've been adversely affected by COVID-19. Giving us more details is the Director of Legal Services at BronxWorks, Arturo Lopez. And Arturo, glad to have you back here on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me back. It's always great to be on.
Yeah, this really touches on to a lot of people across the Bronx as well as New York City. When we look at this rental assistance, given the fact that COVID-19 has rendered so many people unemployed. So share with us what BronxWorks is doing as the lead organization here.
Well, we're both trying to spread the word and knowledge about ERAP and providing direct assistance to the community in preparing applications. Now, you don't actually need someone to assist you. individuals that are tech savvy, you know, can navigate it on their own, that just log on to the website. It can be a little complicated, so in those cases, you can also reach out to our organization for assistance with that.
Yeah. And with the numbers continuing to rise, and we know more and more people are staying at home, and a lot of people are unemployed and underemployed, how have you across your desk in regards to applicants?
Well, so far, BronxWorks has processed about 1,000 applications for the Bronx community for individuals that are facing eviction. As a consortium, it's almost 1,500, but that's actually a very small percentage of what we think the numbers should be. We really need to get the word out there to the community that this assistance is available.
And so the assistance is available, and so somebody's saying, listen, I might need some help. What are the qualifications, pretty much, as you can tell us, on the front end for somebody who may be seeking assistance?
The qualifications, I mean, we can just break it down really simply. It's just that you have some rent arrears, that you owe money, and that there's a relation to COVID-19. You know, that can just be the fact that you weren't able to find work, you had health issues yourself. After that, basically, we would go forward with any application just on the hopes that it would be approved. After that, it's gathering all the evidence, the documentation that the rent is owed, all that supporting document. You have to work with both the tenant and the landlord to make that a strong application and get that in to the state.
Yeah. Are you surprised by the amount of numbers that you've received, seeing over 1,000 people that you've actually been able to service? I mean, in the Bronx, knowing that we have such a huge population and many people still not aware of the program. Are you surprised by the numbers that you're seeing?
We're surprised that we're not seeing even higher numbers. We really, as I said, there is more help out there. There's a good deal amount of money set aside for this program, and we want to see it all go to the community. So we'd just like to have as many people as possible apply.
Yeah. Do you think the challenge is more the fact that many people just simply aren't aware and they're really just trying to rough it out on their own?
I think that there are multiple challenges. In the beginning was educating the community on the program. Then there were some tech issues. Some of them still linger, though there were issues with the website that you know, hopefully are mostly resolved on the way to being resolved. And then there's just also the familiarity and the understanding of gathering the documents and what's needed. You know, it can be hard to come up with that evidence that you owe rent if you're renting and don't have a lease, for example, which happens. People rent and don't necessarily have a lease. You know, renting an apartment from a landlord that owns a small house, may not have a lease, may not have all the receipts. So we can help them structure that in a better way.
Yeah. We talked about tenants, but talk to me a little bit about landlords. Is there any reprieve out there for them, given the fact that so many of them have been suffering as well, with people just simply not paying rent?
Well, this program is really geared to help both the tenant and the landlord. They have to apply together. And what happens is then that if the application is approved, the landlord will be reimbursed for what's owed, so that they will not lose out that money, that needed income. And also the tenant will have those arrears erased, will no longer have an eviction case, and part of the process is the landlord agrees to keep the tenant in place for a year. So it would secure that housing for that tenant and help really stabilize this housing crisis that we're facing in the Bronx.
Yeah, was talking with some officials recently about this particular program itself, and they said that, well, possibly one of the reasons for a lack of people coming forward is the fact that they actually don't get the money in their pocket. It goes to the landlord in a situation like that. Any thought with that being a possible deterrent for people to say, listen, you know what, I got my own stuff, you know, and I'll let this slide?
Sure. I mean, I can understand how someone might have that opinion. What I would say is that this program is here to help the individual secure housing, and I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think there's a bad thing to having a secured place to live. Yes, the program is specifically intended to help you pay rent, so the money is going to the landlord, you know, but there are also other benefits programs out there that individuals can apply for if they're in need, that can help them with their own for bills, for food and living and things like that. ERAP is not a sort of there to fix every problem, but you know, an individual can be assisted with multiple applications and processes to try to stabilize their life.
Yeah. Well, Arturo, thank you for what you're doing over there. I know a lot of people, if they do about it, will definitely take advantage of it. Hopefully, being on the show today, we'll be able to increase some applications and get some people some much needed assistance during some tough times that we've never faced before, but certainly need all the help in being able to get through. Arturo Lopez, our guest here from BronxWorks, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks again.
All righty. Now, listen, if you want more information, visit the website, BronxWorks.org. Don't forget about them on social media, also on Instagram and Twitter at BronxWorks. Listen, we got more show. Don't go anywhere. Open continues right after this.
When taking public transportation, don't touch your phone. Carry hand sanitizer and use it immediately upon leaving the bus or train. Avoid touching your face. If someone is coughing or sneezing, move away. Wash your hands with soap and water as soon as possible. Limit contact with poles. If possible, avoid rush hour. Don't eat or drink on public transportation. Keep your bag off the floor or other surfaces. Avoid directly touching turnstiles. Stay up to date with the latest from your local health department and CDC.
And welcome back to the show. Youth Action, YouthBuild is an organization that's dedicated to creating a community of young adults committing to take responsibility of their own lives. Now, it also deals with improving the larger community. And from its base in East Harlem, Youth Action's primary mission is to provide education, training, and leadership opportunities to low-income young adults, while also engaging them in the creation of affordable housing. Here now with more details, we've got the YouthBuild Executive Director, Robert T. Taylor, and then also Workforce Programs Coordinator, Moses Mcbride. And gentlemen, good to have you.
Nice to meet you.
Yes, and so I'll start off first, and I'll ask, Robert, if you want to share a little bit more. For those that may not know a little bit more about YouthBuild, Youth Action, take it away.
Okay. So Youth Action, YouthBuild, we have been around since 1978. We were founded in the East Harlem area. Our founder is a woman named Dorothy Stoneman, who was a school teacher working in the in East Harlem in the early 70s, and was really concerned about sort of the conditioning of the neighborhoods and the abandoned buildings and the urban blight. And she would talk to the young people and ask, if you could change the world, what would you do? And their response was, we would like to reclaim the housing in our area. And through that sort of impulse, Dorothy worked with these students to obtain abandoned tenements in East Harlem, where they then refurbished them and actually turned them into the low-income housing that we have today. So through that work, we were able to secure about 13 buildings in East Harlem. There's about 124 units that are to this day dedicated to families coming out of the shelter system, and some for folks living with HIV and AIDS. The other aspect of that work was that initiative generated a program model where we could work with young people who were not yet completing their high school education, help them gain some vocational skills that could lead to life-sustaining work, and also contribute positively to the community. And that's how the YouthBuild program came into being. We were the first YouthBuild program. We have since been replicated across the United States. There are about 286 YouthBuild programs in the United States, and it's also been replicated in 13 other countries. And so we consider ourselves a movement that are really looking at supporting what we call opportunity youth. These are young people who are looking for opportunities to advance their lives, but they also represent an opportunity for the community to develop leaders that otherwise would have been overlooked. And so our programming is really designed to provide pathways of success for young people that will result in life-sustaining career pathways. We currently offer training in construction skills, as well as food sector jobs and jobs supporting building operations. And this is managing the efficiency of buildings. And we have a new pathway that we're opening up this summer, where we're going to train young people from across Harlem in the South Bronx to be network technicians. And these will be folks who are building the 5G wireless infrastructure across New York City. And these will be great jobs that will be evolving and become more and more in demand as broadband infrastructure is created across New York City. So we're excited about all of that.
Yeah. And let me bring Moses in and have a little conversation with him, because when we talk about workforce development, as Robert has said, really preparing people for the workplace and preparing young people for the workplace. For you, can you share a little bit more about how you're engaging in helping people be more prepared for the workplace?
Thank you, Daren. One of the things is that we acknowledge that young people need to have the skills capable to compete in today's market. And so when we design workforce programs, we're always looking at what is it that young people need the most in order to easily assimilate into the workforce that they may not have any experience with. They may come from families who haven't had that experience or examples to give them. And so we provide them with education about what the interview process might look like, some questions that are very important to answer. We talk about etiquette. We talk about perspective. How do you view yourself in relation to employers in the world? Where do you place value at? And a lot of times we want to start there with them acknowledging that they have value. And then from that point, we build up to employing these skills that's necessary for them to compete and also to obtain employment. So our workforce program, it starts off a little bit with work readiness. Work readiness is interviewing skills, interview preparation, resume development. We also do personal development. We want to make sure that individuals understand that part of their professional development is also to acknowledge that they have skill sets that may not be on paper, right? They may not acquire those through training, but they do have soft skills that they can actually translate into employment. But on top of that, our hard skills training is very important to workforce development. We talk about those skill sets when Robert was explaining some of the certifications and some of the process of rehabbing buildings. That's the skill building aspect of our work readiness program. And it proves to be very successful with young people. They get a chance to have some hands-on training, some hands-on skills, and they learn about something that they see every day, which is a lot of the construction, a lot of the tenement buildings that people are living in their ability to kind of help keep them and maintain them in a pristine and clean way.
Yeah, I know when you talk about serving the underserved community, one of the things that you have is a low-income housing program. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that and how that's actually benefiting our young people.
Yes, so the low-income housing program, as I said, is sort of part of the whole and how we actually became a youth development organization by working with young people to recapture housing and then preserve it. So in our heyday, we were doing, rehabs of abandoned buildings. That has since now turned into preservation of low-income housing, because the truth of the matter is securing buildings in New York City is, it's outside of our affordability. You know, it's very expensive to get land now. So we work on preserving the units that we have and partnering with other low-income housing operators in the area, such as Taino Towers, which is a large low-income housing development, where our students are gaining hands-on skills, doing apartment rehabs, turnovers when people move out, redesigning, weatherization, and those kind of things. So the apartments themselves are primarily benefiting folks who are coming out of the shelter system, are formerly homeless, or have HIV and AIDS diagnoses. And our portfolio is pretty limited. We have about 124 units with a long waiting list. But the way that the young people themselves benefit is by doing the actual turnover work, gaining the work experience, being connected to potential employers who can hire them as building workers, and then also contributing to their own neighborhoods by having, by supporting this low-income resource that is becoming more and more rare in New York City.
Yes.
Yeah. And Moses, before we go, just share with us a little bit about the impact that you guys are having, because when you give these young people the skills, obviously it translates into a workplace environment. And I know you got some great success stories.
Yes, one of the things is that we partner with many of the local businesses that you see in the area. We're located between 2nd and 3rd Avenue on 118th Street in East Harlem. And so, our impact is usually shown by the fact that many of our placements are in an area that we visit every day. We're able to walk into some of the places and see our former alumni students working in. Just recently, one of the biggest successes, I think, is working with Dan's Super Nice Bakery. We're being able to place one of our young people there to get experience in the baking industry, but not only that, but just being able to understand the operations of business. They get a hands-on experience there. And I think that, these kind of partnerships that we're building to place young people in the local community reflects the kind of successes that we are looking for. We want our young people to feel a part of the communities that they grew up in, and also see that there's opportunity in those communities as well. And so, our biggest success stories is just being able to walk down these local areas and see our young people working in the industries that they know and recognize.
Yeah. Well, Moses, Robert, definitely want to thank you both for being with us here on the show. You're doing a great job of really impacting the lives of young people and positioning them for future success. And that's what we need. And sometimes, all it takes is an opportunity for them to be able to turn their life around and get that start that they actually need. You guys are providing it. Thank you both for being with us here on Open.
A quick plug, we are recruiting for our new cohort. And so if there is a young person in the audience between the ages of 17 and 24 who does not yet have their high school diploma or is looking for a pathway to a job, come give us a call. It's www.youthaction.nyc. You can learn more about how to apply for the program.
We accept that plug, brother. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
All righty, listen, want to let you know again, now, if you want more information about the program, what you can do, again, visit their website and follow them on social media, the website YouthAction.nyc, and then also on social media at YA YouthBuild, YA YouthBuild. All right, well, we've come to the end of our show today. I want to thank all of our guests for joining us, and most of all, you, the viewer, for tuning in. Now, if you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the recablecast on BronxNet Channel 67. If you have Verizon Files, Channel 2133, or I should say anytime on the web at BronxNet.org. Like I don't know our website. Well, listen, if you are looking for another brand new episode, don't forget, catch my girl Rena Valentine on Friday with all the best of arts and entertainment. Special shout out all those watching on the MNN channel, as Open is broadcast live simultaneously on Manhattan Neighborhood Network. I am Daren Jaime. Until next Wednesday, Open, we encourage you, stay safe, and most of all, keep this channel wide open. God bless. We'll see you soon.